Hello, welcome to A Current Affair. I'm Tracy Grimshaw. We all know that Chaser Boys pride themselves on crazy stunts and offbeat comedy. Some of it's hilarious, but they've also cut pretty close to the bone on a number of occasions, and perhaps no closer than last night. A song satirising the deaths of our most iconic Australians has sparked anger among their families and friends.
Steve Irwin lived in khaki, a cartoon kamikaze who taunted Crocs and Tots so frequently.
It was savage stuff, really savage stuff.
Stan Zamanek was a racist jock, a fatso xenophobic whose views were more malignant than his brain.
Hey guys, lift your game. You're talented. You're better than this.
Yes, even tools turn into top blokes after death.
Was it comedy or was it just cruel?
It wasn't funny, it was hurtful, and it just shows that these guys actually are out of control.
He was very hard of hearing, he was dull and domineering.
The song, called The Eulogy, written about public figures becoming more glorified after death, and dug up the memories of several great Australians.
Bradman was a total farce, a grumpy, greedy type who couldn't even score one run last time he played.
I know humour's all about pushing the envelope, but when you're attacking the dead who can't defend themselves, and the recently dead, in the case of a few of the people they mentioned, it's not humour.
Allow me to furnish you with a few examples.
Steve Irwin, Don Bradman, Stan Zamanek, Prince and Kerry Packer were targeted, the song stopping short of an attack on Belinda Emmett.
Belinda Emmett was a...
Peter Brock was also included.
The Chaser skit, in this case, is extremely poor taste. We're dealing here with people who've given an enormous amount to society, and often at great cost to their families, and it's the families that I'm really feeling for.
And Brocky was some rev head who pumped the air with pure lead. So anti-green, he drove into a tree.
I'd have to say the Chasers are very effective in getting free publicity.
It's not how they live that counts, but how we...
With tongue-in-cheek, the song suggested Martin Bryant, the man responsible for the Port Arthur massacre, would become a saint when he dies.
This would be extremely hurtful if you have a first or second-hand connection to any of these people, or even if a first or second-hand connection to victims of Port Arthur. I mean, all these people were thrown into the mix together in a very cruel and callous way.
Peter Ford was a good friend of radio talkback host Stan Zamanek, who died from cancer just 3 months ago.
What we're seeing with the Chaser Boys is a very heady or almost lethal mix of arrogance and success. And there seems to be no checks and balances going on with them at all.
Regardless of its offensive manner, last night's show was watched by at least 1.5 million people nationally, and on today's online polls, 3/4 of respondents said they weren't offended.
Turn into top blokes after death.
That's the whole point of satire. It is to upset people. It's to overturn conventions. It's to toss, sacred cows out of windows. It was good stuff.
Outspoken broadcaster Mike Carlton was heavily criticised earlier this year for comments he made about Stan Zamanek following his death. Carlton stands by the comedy team.
The only thing you owe the dead is the truth. That's all that's required. And I think they were making a truthful point there.
Yes, election watch.
Comedian Chris Taylor wrote the song and said today, "I think it makes a fair enough point that people who are flawed in life are often disproportionately hailed as saints in death," adding, "We've been doing this for 6 years and have a pretty good idea about where public attitudes are."
It was outrageous, but it was very, very clever, and it was very, very funny, and it made a good point.
Look, $160 million they spent on Apex Security.
2007 has been a controversial yet extremely successful year for the ABC program. It achieved worldwide attention after its stunt during APEC, when the team successfully breached the government's multi-million-dollar security system for the world's leaders. Terrorism victims also accused the team of insensitivity after they used Osama bin Laden to promote the show. But much of the show's weight relies on offensive material, and it's only going to continue.
We'll be a top bloke after death.
And if they want the reaction, they've certainly got it today.
There is no time factor that would work in this sort of thing. You know, there are so many people mentioned who will always hold a special place in people's hearts, and to try and trash that in order to gain free publicity is extremely lacking in any class whatsoever.
Peter Stefanovic with that report. And Prime Minister John Howard and Opposition Leader Kevin Rudd have both criticised the Chasers song. Mr Howard called it distasteful and despicable, while, quote, absolutely disgusting was Mr Rudd's reaction.